that times were changing. I grew up in a time where neighbors knew one another. Neighbors knew one another. My mom and her friends, they'd go garage sailing together. We just knew about special days in people's lives and things like that. Fast forward 30 years, no one knows the neighbor next door. It's very seldom. People are inside, they're enclosed. And a family could have a need, and the resource to that need could be right next door. However, they never know because no one communicates. So we found there was something missing. So how could we promote community and enlighten families about the resources in the community, those who have the need? So in that, we created something called Take Back Our Community. It's just an event where we bring the city out, we feed people for free, we do school supplies, giveaways, bikes, things like that, and people would come out for free, right? So in that, I said, if people are gonna come out, let's bring community resources to the park. While they're moving around, doing what they're doing, they can run into a community resource, an Operation Threshold, a People's Clinic, Salvation Army, different types of agencies and entities in which they may have a need for, right? So in that, we started that in 2008. So moving down the line, this will be year 15 for us. So 2 years ago, it'll be 3 years this year, we partnered with Boys and Girls Club came in and they partnered with us, and we were just starting to take things to another level, right? So I'm appreciative of that, Bailey. So thank you for that. And then also, that's just one part. The other part, what you were seeing in the videos, is a passion for me. My parents are from South, hardworking, law-abiding, God-fearing people, and taught me a lot of different things. My dad taught me to hunt, to fish, to grow my own food, all those types of things. And let me be honest with you, I hated the garden part of it because I had to pick the peas and I had to shell them and I had to, so I said to myself, when I grow up, I'm never gonna get a garden. I'm just gonna go to Hy-Vee and get my grades, right? Now look at me. I'm teaching kids, how to garden, how to cultivate, how to manicure, how to maintain so they can grow their own food. And when we started that in '09, we started things like corn, cabbage, things that you could grow, they're beautiful and all that, but you have to take it home. So the kid goes home, Mom, here's my cabbage. Could you prepare my cabbage? Yes, son, I'll get to that cabbage. Just set it on the counter. 2 days pass. Mom, you gonna cook my cabbage? Well, you better leave me alone. I told you I was gonna get to that cabbage. Week goes by. What happens to the cabbage? It spoils, right? What does that do to the morale of that student? Let him down or her down, right? So moving forward, we decided to do instant gratification things, right? Cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, melons, things like that. We can just pop open over the tailgate of the truck and we can just do it, right? Because all of that work and effort and time they put into that, cultivating that, instead of taking it home and waiting for someone to take the ball and finish, they can finish right on the tailgate of the truck, right? So now we do instant gratification things for students. We can do all that work and we can wash and eat right there at the garden if we choose to. So that's one of those things. The fishing part of it and the camping part of it came another way. I went camping with a friend, and mind you, let me just be transparent. African American people don't typically camp. It hasn't been a thing, right? But I went with family, and I'm caught up in all the things that's going on, and I'm trying to connect the dots. And I found that Sunday dinners for my family and camping were symbolic. Sunday dinners for me, our family, we talked about goals, aspirations, failures, success, dreams, right? I found that around the campfire, those people were doing that. I'm like, wow, this is so cool, right? But what I did find, I was like, there's no one here who looks like me. Why is that? So I took that, and I wanted to make a difference. And when in my journey with students, I want to introduce them to peace, solitude, nature. Right? There's a quote biblical says, "You give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach him how to fish, he can eat for a lifetime." Right? And so my goal, my journey, is that I'm teaching students, cultivating those things, moving them away from the PlayStation and the joysticks. And it's all good, this place, but I want to show and teach them that they can have good time in nature. They can appreciate the things outdoors. And confirmation for me is when I was growing up, I had some friends. Now, I was at church on Sundays, I was at prayer service on Wednesdays, and I was at choir practice on Saturdays. So you know how I'm set up, right? They didn't do any of that. But as an adolescent teen, I wanted to do what they were doing. And my mom and dad was not having it. But one day, they said, "Mike, you can go bike riding with those guys, I said, "Oh, Mom, but they're finally gonna let me off the leash," right? So I had a dirt bike, a BMX bike. These guys had Schwinn's with gears and things. I didn't care, I just wanted to go riding. So we were riding, we're on the east side, and we ended up on West 4th. That's a pretty good distance. So I said, "Mike, let's take a break." So I took a break, and he said, "Wait right here." I said, "Why?" One thing, two guys were on the same bike, number one, which is like, that is weird. You got your own bike. Why you gotta ride on the handlebars with him? I didn't care. I had a moment of freedom. It wasn't my problem. We got to the west side, and as I'm taking a break under the street light, they went on somebody's porch and took off with another bike. I'm like, hey, that's not his bike. Hey, let's go home. They took off and they just left me because they both had 10 speeds now. I finally got home and they were laughing. I went to my mom. I said, "Mom, I went riding with them. They stole somebody's bike. I didn't have anything to do with that, right? And I want to clear my slate because if I came home with a bike that my parents didn't pay for, my parents are old school, so just use your imagination what's going to happen to me." So I want to avoid all of that. Fast forward 30 years. I'm in the barbershop, getting my hair cut. That friend that lived across the street came in the barbershop. He says, "Mike," he said, "Man, I wish I would have went fishing with you. I had to spend the last 17 years of my life incarcerated." Light bulb went off. You know what? I'm going to teach other students how to do this because that saved my life. When they were out doing what they were doing, me and my dog went to the Cedar. I had a 202 Zepco. If anybody know anything about fishing, that was boss back then to me. 202 Zepco, a can of worms, and a bobber, and me and my dog, we went fishing. And I'm going to tell you, it saved my life. Because if I got involved in what they were doing, the odds are I may have moved into that situation too. Because the stage of adolescent development says, you want to do what your friends are doing, and your parents have never been 16 before. They don't know anything. These guys are smart. Let me go with them. But so not true. So in my journey in creating Back to Basics, is simply that. Back to basics. Let's go back to where it starts at. Let's go back to the grassroots of things. Let me teach students about life skill development in my at-risk divergent intervention program. Before students cross that line of legality, let me give them some tools and some insight to deter them possibly from taking that route. Give them some tools along the way to get involved in some other things so they don't have to go on that bike ride. with friends and come back with a bike that didn't belong to them. That is my mission, that's my journey. And in that, there were some students in that video. They recited a poem in that video. Those students really don't know exactly the meaning of that poem succinctly now, but my prayer later is they'll figure it out because it's so meaningful to their lives moving forward. The students in that program are required to memorize that poem. My staff is required to memorize that poem. Students earn an incentive, a little $10 incentive, to memorize that poem. Whenever I see them in Walmart, I see them in Sam's, I'll ask them to recite, and they recite it on the spot, there's another $10, right? It's small, but it's huge. Some people play checkers, right? That's just an instant gratification thing. But for me, I play chess. This is the long game. I'm playing for the end game. So in closing, I want to share the poem with you. Our deepest fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, or fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. We're born to make manifest in the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated by our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. Thanks for having me. Any questions? Before I leave, any questions about the program? I left some information about what it is we do. I left information on how to